Have you ever wondered what really makes an idea meaningful? Is it something you can prove with cold, hard facts, or is it something else entirely? Well, a group of absolutely brilliant thinkers once thought they had cracked the code, a simple test to filter out all the nonsense from the truth. This is the story of their revolutionary idea and the one tiny, fatal flaw that brought the whole thing crashing down.
So let's just dive right in with this one. Is the statement, stealing is wrong, meaningful? I mean, your gut probably screams, yeah, of course it is. But think about it. How would you actually prove that? You can't stick the concept of wrongness in a test tube or look at it under a microscope, right? This is the exact puzzle that a group of philosophers got totally obsessed with back in the early 20th century.
And this is where we get to the heart of the problem. On one side, you've got a straight-up fact that we can check with evidence. On the other, you have a moral claim. It's a powerful statement for sure, but you can't measure it with any scientific tool. And that little difference, that's what kicked off this whole incredible philosophical adventure.
So these thinkers set out on a huge quest to create one single rule, a kind of ultimate filter, to sort every statement we could possibly make into two simple piles: meaningful and, well, meaningless nonsense.
Okay, so this big idea was called logical positivism. And the masterminds behind it, a group known as the Vienna Circle, they were like the rock stars of philosophy at the time. Their whole movement has been compared to a meteor. It just blazed across the sky, super bright, super intense, and then poof, it was gone. So what was this brilliant revolutionary idea? They called it the verification test. And they thought this was it, the ultimate tool to slice through centuries of philosophical mumbo-jumbo and get right to the cold, hard truth. And the principle itself, the verification principle, is honestly, it's beautifully simple. Here's the deal. For any sentence to mean anything, you have to be able to say, here's how I would check if it's true. If you can't even imagine a way to test it, the statement isn't necessarily wrong. It's just meaningless, like static on a radio. So, according to this rule, only two kinds of sentences get a pass. First, you've got what they called analytic statements. These are true just by definition. Think, a triangle has three sides. It's true because, well, that's the definition of a triangle. Second, you have synthetic statements. For these, you gotta check the real world. Is grass green? Go look outside. Yep, verified. And that was it. Anything else? Ethics, art, religion, all of it? Considered meaningless. But yeah, you probably saw this coming. They hit a snag, like right away. The rule was just too tough. It was too rigid. And the moment it met the messy, real world, cracks started to show. Okay, so here's the big problem. This strong version of their rule demanded 100% conclusive proof. But think about it. How do you prove Churchill was prime minister? You can't go back in time. Or what about a law of science like gravity? How can you prove it works everywhere in the universe all the time? You can't. Suddenly, huge chunks of human knowledge, history, even science itself were about to be thrown out as meaningless. Whoops. This was such a big problem that even one of the top guys, A.J. Ayer, had to basically raise his hand and say, hold on a second. He pointed out that almost nothing we say about the real world is ever 100% proven. It's all just a probable hypothesis. I mean, that's a massive backtrack. So, to save the day, Ayer came up with a patch. He called it weak verification. The idea was, okay, maybe you don't need to prove it for sure. You just need to be able to say what kind of evidence would make it likely or probable. This was a really clever move, trying to make the whole system more flexible. And the perfect example for this is the moon. Back in the 1930s, nobody had a clue what was on the far side of the moon. But saying there are mountains on the far side of the moon was still a meaningful statement. Why? Because even then you could imagine how to check. You'd, build a rocket, fly around it, and take a look. And that's exactly what happened decades later. So this weak version seemed like it had saved the theory. It was patched up, but only for a little while, because there was a much, much deeper problem, a fatal flaw hiding in plain sight. And this is where the whole thing just implodes. So here it is, the question that brings the whole house of cards down. How do you verify the verification principle itself? Just let that sink in for a second. Does the rule, a statement is only meaningful if you can verify it, pass its own test? And the shocking answer is no, it doesn't. The principle isn't true by definition. It's not like a triangle has three sides.
and you can't go out and observe it in the world. So, by its very own rules, the verification principle is meaningless. It literally self-destructs. Game over.
And if that wasn't enough, there was another giant problem. Even the weaker version still kind of broke science. Take a basic scientific law. Sodium plus chlorine makes sodium chloride, table salt. That's supposed to be true everywhere, right? But you can never, ever test every single atom of sodium and chlorine in the entire universe, so you can't conclusively verify it. The biggest irony here is that this whole philosophy, which was built to celebrate science, ended up saying that science's own fundamental laws might be meaningless.
Wow. Okay, so if the verification principle is a bust, where does that leave us? What is meaning then? Well, the collapse of logical positivism didn't kill the question. Far from it. It just blew the doors wide open for new ways of looking at the whole thing.
A philosopher named John Hick came up with this really great parable to explore this. Picture this. You have two people, and they're walking down the very same road. One of them is convinced that this road leads to an amazing, beautiful, celestial city. The other one, they think the road just ends, leads to absolutely nowhere.
Now, along the way, they both go through the exact same things. Sunny days, tough storms, all of it. But for the believer, every hardship is a trial to strengthen their faith. Every good moment is a sign they're on the right path. For the skeptic, it's all just random chance. Good luck, bad luck. See? Their beliefs totally change the meaning of their journey, even though the facts of the road are identical. And here's Hick's big point. The belief is meaningful because eventually it can be verified. Just not yet. When they get to the end of the road, one of two things will happen. Either they'll see the celestial city, or they won't. The truth will be revealed. He gave it a fancy name, eschatological verification. Basically, it means some things can only be proven true or false at the very end of the story.
And other thinkers jumped in with more critiques. Broomer argued that, hey, you can't treat religious faith like it's a science experiment. They're totally different things. Emmett pointed out that a lot of religious language isn't meant to be taken literally. It's analogical or metaphorical. And Swinburne made a really simple but kind of brilliant point. We can all understand the idea of our toys coming to life when we leave the room. We get what it means, even though we know we can never, ever verify it.
So, in the end, that bright meteor of logical positivism just burned out. As a hard and fast rule, it was a failure. But you can't deny the impact it had. That bright flash forced philosophers, and really all of us, to look way more closely at our own language, at our ideas of truth, and to ask what really, truly makes our beliefs meaningful.
Which brings us back to you. If a simple scientific test for meaning doesn't cut it, what does? When you can't prove something in a lab, what is it that gives meaning to your belief in things like justice or love or purpose? Yeah, that's a question that's definitely worth thinking about.